Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We've got a lot to talk about here on the eve of NBA free agency. Plenty of stuff for us to dive into on the show. I am Trevor Lane. Keith Smith has some type of
I'm here.
surprise.
I have a surprise for you. Are you ready?
Oh, no. He is here.
I have my apron on.
Your apron.
It's all about aprons. And if
God.
we need it, I've got a second apron on. And if we need this, I've got a hard cap. Let's go. That was just for you, my friend. Two aprons.
Two aprons and a
hard cap. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
I did not know this was coming. I'm dying.
Do you love it?
That's fantastic.
My bike moment.
I'm not going to be able to continue this show.
I'm wearing this the whole show, too.
Two aprons and a hard cap.
Two aprons in case you need a first apron and a second apron and a hard cap.
This intro will go down in Front Office Show history. Oh, man. Keith, bringing it for the start of free agency.
I went looking for a hard hat.
I
thought we had a hard hat somewhere in the house, but we didn't have one. So we've got two aprons, and this works as a hard cap.
That's a hard cap. That's a hard cap. I love it. I love it. We've got visual cues now for the salary cap. Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Here we go. Let's go. I figure we're going to probably do a lot of apron talk today, so why not?
I assume we're going to. We are going to do quite a bit of apron talk. Oh, there's going to be a lot of stuff for us to get into today. We got to talk about the Dejounte Murray trade. We got to talk about the LeBron stuff, the player options, all sorts of things that are going down around the NBA. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get through it now, but we'll make it somehow, some way. Keith, where do you want to start? You're the one wearing the hard cap.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably not great, right? I don't know. Let's start with the Dejounte Murray trade because we got that happened like right after we went live yesterday. So let's want to start there.
Yeah, let's start there. I was fortunate when this trade actually broke. We'd gone out to get something
in the screen without laughing.
Oh no, I have Studio Stu in here as well, and he just disappeared on me, and I'm like looking around. I don't know exactly where he went. He's somewhere where I can't see him though, and that usually is not a good thing.
You know why? That's Studio Stu's a hard cat.
That's right, a hard cat.
This is it, man. It's never going to get better than this.
This is peak Front Office Show right now. Dejounte Murray to the Pelicans. We were out and having some tasty margaritas at the time, and so that eased the pain of this deal going down. I recognize my own bias here. I was still a little bit underwhelmed by what the Hawks got back in this trade. What were your thoughts on this deal?
Yeah, I was too at first, and it was part of it was the piecemeal reporting, the way it came out that it was Larry Nance, then it was the picks, then it was first it was just Dejounte Murray's being traded to the Pelicans, and we're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? Then it was the piecemeal reporting of Larry Nance, then it was Dyson Daniels, the two picks, and then eventually EJ Liddell in there. This trade has not gone final yet, too, so I wouldn't say it's fully locked in on this one. So I think, though, the two picks are great, of course, but they're the Lakers pick next year, which probably isn't going to be a great pick, and then a future Bucks pick, but not far enough away that it's like after the Bucks will really have aged out. Of course, there's the potential those could like completely fall apart, and those could end up great picks. So we'll see. Larry Nance, nice player, but I don't really know what his long-term fit is with the Hawks. So that kind of makes for me the best asset they got was Dyson Daniels. I like Dyson Daniels, but I don't know that he's like a super top prospect or anything, but I think it was just, you kind of got to do what you got to do.
I do wonder if, because everything is now going to be measured to the Mikal Bridges trade, and yes, I do wonder if this is a sign that the Bridges trade is going to be seen around the league as more of an outlier rather than something that sets the bar now. Because as we've talked about, like, if Bridges is 5 first, if Giannis were on the market, is he 10 first or something? Like, what does that look like? But we also saw something similar with the Rudy Gobert trade, where everybody was blown away by the price, and everybody said, oh no, is this where the bar is now set? Is this the new precedent here? And then as it turned out, it was, no, this is the outlier. This is not the new rule. And we saw trades kind of normalize after that. I wonder if this Dejounte Murray trade is an indication that that's what's going to happen here, that Mikal Bridges, that deal, the amount of picks given up, and the Knicks' unique situation is not going to be seen as the precedent now. That's more the outlier, and everything else will kind of normalize closer to what we typically see in terms of draft capital surrendered for a player in a trade.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're right. I mean, the Bridges trade should not be what people expect going forward. I think that was the Knicks making an all-in move. We said it at the time. It feels like a little bit of an overpay for a guy who's never been an all-star, probably never going to be an all-NBA level guy. But we also recognize why the Knicks would have done that move. So yeah, it's definitely a weird, spot right now for trades. Everybody's going to kind of be recalibrating on the fly with all of this, because it's just going to take a little while to kind of get there with figuring out what's the best way to do these kind of trades. People are asking, hold on. Okay, you're getting into
it. And then best opening ever. Love that.
If you're late, it's a first apron. And if you need it, it's a second apron. And if you really need it, it's a hard cap. Come on now. Self-explanatory.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Does any of this make sense?
Jermaine said, do you think the Pelicans have too many ball dominant players now? Murray, Ingram, Zion, and McCollum. I don't think the Pelicans are done, Keith. Maybe I'm wrong, and they just say Dejounte Murray is enough, and we're off and running. But I agree. I think the fit is a little wonky here with those 4. I don't think they're done. I think one, if not both, of McCollum and Ingram are going to be on their way out before everything is said and done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more likely probably Ingram, much easier to move, better player. Even though he does need paid, he's a better player on he doesn't have the kind of longer contract like what McCollum has with him. So that becomes a whole thing with Brandon Ingram where you want to move him before it gets kind of crazy. I'll also say this, the Pelicans, where everybody's talking about, well, they're hard capped at the apron now and all these things, the apron, hard capped. People are in a spot though where you're overlooking, they've never paid the tax in franchise history. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to kind of operate at least somewhat with the tax being the baseline for the team as kind of, not the baseline, I guess the de facto hard cap, if you will, for them to try to not exceed that. So that's kind of where it is.
All right, let's go. I just clicked the live. I was so confused. I love that.
I love that all these people are like tuning in and going live, and they're like, "Why the hell is he wearing?
What is going on here
in an apron? It's not a bib. It's an actual apron. I can show everybody. It's an apron.
Keith,
bib. I don't wear a bib. I'm not a baby. So let me tell you, I want to sell actual aprons, and on the front, I want to just have an apron, and then I want to have a picture of an egg, and it says non-bird, and then a picture of a chick, and it says early bird, and then a picture of a chicken that says bird. Would you buy that?
That is, the jump to conclusions, no. Matt, in the movie Office Space. That is that level of idea, Keith. That's that level of idea. People would still buy it, I think.
Yeah.
But
I just need to get hit by a car, I guess.
All right. Let's go this. So I've got some people in the chat, and I don't recall this off the top of my head. People in the chat are asking about Paul George and when exactly like the hour that he has to decide whether or not he's opting into his contract, which would give us maybe some insight into whether or not he's going to be traded, what that's going to look like. Is that approaching here? Are we on Paul George countdown watch, or is it the end of the night Eastern time? So 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Is that his deadline to decide whether or not to opt in, or is it like we're counting down right now? We're like 30 minutes away.
Yeah, no, I think it's 6 for him. It's either 5 or 6. There's been varying reporting for him, so it's one of those two where I think they'll figure that part of it out there. So yeah, I don't know which one of those it is. There's been some have said it's 5 East, and this is Eastern time. Just so you guys know, whenever we use times, it's always going to be Eastern time because that's what the league uses. So 5 Eastern time, or it's going to be a 6 p.m. Eastern with this.
Yeah. So we may get some pretty big time breaking news on this show then.
Yeah, potentially depending on how long we go today.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to this trade.
Yeah.
I think good addition for the Pelicans. Obviously, I think Murray's good. I think it got a little overblown. I think there was a little of like, oh my gosh, it's not 5 p.m. It's 4:30. Oh, this person's saying it's 5 p.m. when he has to opt in. It may be.
Oh, when he
I
has
don't
to.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. We'll see. We'll find. I mean, if it's 5 p.m., we'll know in the next 20 minutes or so. So in this one with Dejounte Murray, I think people got a little too crazy with like, oh my gosh, Pelicans, are they like the team to beat now and blah, blah, blah. That's not like necessarily like where this is going for me. I think it's a really good addition. I think if they keep CJ McCollum has years of playing off-ball experience next to a much more ball-dominant guard. And Murray obviously was used to sharing the backcourt with Trae Young over the last couple of years. So I think they'll have a spot where it will be very it's going to be a very good fit for them. I think it's a really good long-term fit for them at the point. We'll just kind of see where it goes. They have to get front court depth now, though, because they have Zion, Eves, Missy, and that's kind of it in the front court. They don't have
assuming Valanciunas is gone.
Yeah, exactly. So they've got to really do something to get into a place where they can beef up in the front court, but they've got the flexibility to do that. And that's why I would not rule out a Brandon Ingram trade being something that rebalances things for them and brings in a player that can really play and rebalances the roster in a way. Because they've got Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. I saw a lot of people were tweeting, you can't start Zion, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum, and Dejounte Murray because, one, you don't have a center in that mix, and that's already 6 guys. So something's going to give there in New Orleans. It's not going to be Zion. It's not going to be Murray because they just got him. It's not going to be Jones or Murphy. So that means it's Ingram or McCollum. That's going to be how that goes.
And maybe both. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. And I do agree. I think Ingram is easier to trade. Tyler asked, do you think the Lakers could get Ingram in a trade? 2 first unprotected swaps, player 2. I would be a little bit surprised, maybe not entirely if he was their target, just given the injury concerns, and AD and LeBron certainly have injury concerns. But the bigger point, rather than focusing too much on could the Lakers actually get Brandon Ingram, it's that now it's the Hawks who have a vested interest in the Lakers struggling this season as opposed to the Pelicans, aside from the Pelicans probably still having ill will towards the Lakers for, all the stuff. But now it's the Hawks who have the Lakers pick. So in the past, we've talked about any hypothetical trade with the Pelicans that the Pelicans would not want to. They would actively be hurting themselves if they risked making the Lakers any better. Now it's the Hawks in that situation, and the Pelicans do not have that dynamic now with the Lakers. So just something to throw out there now that pick has moved. But I think the Lakers, we'll get into LeBron stuff in just a few minutes. They've got a whole lot more open now if the reports are correct about LeBron taking a pay cut. And again, we'll talk all about it. I'm going to pull up Keith's tweet in just a moment. But I just wanted to make sure we talk about that dynamic here of the Pelicans' relationship with the Lakers and how it shifts now as a result of the Dejounte Murray trade.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I applaud people are asking if I could pay attention in the chat. It's a busy day. There's a lot of stuff going on. So we're going to be,
it's one of those days.
Both going to be looking away quite a bit. I'm listening to everything Trevor's saying for sure. I think what was interesting, because I'm with you on this one. I don't know. I don't think that's where the Lakers go. with this, because to your point, I don't think the Pelicans are going to want to they're probably going to want to trade him to the East if they can, ideally, just to get him out. But I think what's really interesting with this whole dynamic now is somebody was saying, hey, we got to get Trae Young traded to the Lakers now. Well, a couple things with this. It's that the Hawks cannot bottom out this year. They don't have control of their next 3 first-round draft picks, their own 3 first-round draft picks. And now they own the Lakers pick. They have no reason to make the Lakers any better. The Lakers would have to really come with a monster offer to get it even into a place where that makes sense. So that becomes a very not advantageous move for the Hawks in this. On the Hawks side, let's see what they do now. They freed up a little bit of flexibility long term. Let's see how they kind of put things together.
Yeah, and we'll see where they go from here. Y'all would be proud to know I was at the movies when the Dejounte Murray trade went down. I had a feeling something like that would happen. It's the way it goes.
Thank you for your service. Yep.
It's the way it goes. You go out somewhere, you do something, and stuff goes down. All right, where do we want to go to next? Actually, you know what? I do know where we want to go to next. We did not talk about on our last show, and we meant to, the Immanuel Quickley deal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. That was off the top of my head. What was it? 4 years, 175 mil.
175.
175. That's what it was. 175.
35 million a year. Yep.
That. Am I underrating Immanuel Quickley, or does that feel like a lot?
I think you're underrating him. I think that's fine. So I think this is an example where I think people got a little too, well, wait a minute. How much for Immanuel Quickley? Like, how much is he making? And I think what we have to kind of remember with Immanuel Quickley is, and I'm pulling it up on Spot Track right now. So amongst point guards, his salary for the first year projects to be a little over 30 million, about 30.2 million. Where do you think that ranks among all currently signed point guards?
It's top 10.
No, 15th.
It's 15th among current 15th point guards?
Yep.
Who's ahead of, who's making more than that right now? I mean, obviously you've got guys like John, Trae, and Steph.
Yep.
Who's in that mix?
Here we go in order. One of these we can argue. He calls himself a point guard. I don't know how much we believe it, but that's what he calls himself. We got
Luka in there.
Curry, Lillard, Luka. I count him as a point guard. He runs the offense.
Okay.
Trae, Fred VanVleet, Tyrese Halliburton, Kyrie Irving. Here's the questionable one: Ben Simmons, Darius Garland, Ja Morant, Jamal Murray, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, LaMelo Ball, and De'Aaron Fox. So Quickley checks in 15th, highest paid point guard right now. Then if we go to all guards, and this is updating for me here, that drops him to, amongst all guards, he drops to 23rd amongst all currently signed guards. So is he the 15th best point guard? I think so. I think he's at least the 15th best point guard in the NBA. So
I think as you're going through that list,
guys are going to pass him.
Right, guys will pass him. I would rather have, aside from Ben Simmons, I think, and I may have missed a name or two on that list, but as Studio Stu checks in here, I think I would rather have all the guys on that list ahead of Quickley, but to put him right at the end of that list, okay, that's fine. I don't think that's so bad, especially for Toronto. As they're looking to build this out, and he's a young player.
I got some clarification real quick.
Yeah.
All options 5 p.m. So 20 minutes. 20 minutes to go. So
it's not the end of the night. So we're going to find out on everybody in the next 20
everybody
minutes.
Here. Yeah. Anybody who's still out there in the next 20 minutes.
Oh, so I'd better get ready with the breaking news button.
Paul George is declining. Here it is. Go ahead. Play that breaking news button.
Well, let's do it.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Per Woj, Los Angeles Clippers star Paul George is declining his $48.7 million option in entering free agency. He's planning to set meetings with cap space teams and the Clippers beginning Sunday night. An opt-in and trade scenario is now gone.
So that means essentially Paul George to the Warriors is now dead.
Pretty close. It gets really hard now because if the Warriors were to acquire Paul George via sign and trade, they would get hard capped at the first apron. So very unlikely that would be where that goes because it'd just be really hard to fit his salary in. Is there ways to structure it? Of course there is. There's always a way, but it would get to be very, very difficult with this. So this is going to be really interesting now. Sign and trades are still possible. It's just the really expensive teams that are not possible. I'm completely making this one up because he's not going to do it. If he wanted to go to Charlotte via sign and trade, they could make that happen with relative ease. But yeah, so they would get hard capped at the at that first apron, and that'd be really, really difficult for a lot of these teams to pull off. They want to do a sign and trade. So my guess is it's either he re-signs with the Clippers, which obviously is still on the table, or he's changing teams and headed somewhere else.
Yeah. And the cap space teams that we've most often heard connected to him, of course, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Orlando Magic being another one. This will be knowing that LeBron is almost certainly sticking with the Lakers, and that's everything we've heard. This is the big domino now out there on the free agent market is what happens with Paul George.
Yeah. I kind of, do you think there's any chance OKC's in play for him?
You know, I think I'll tell you what, if they're not, they should be. I think they should be.
Oklahoma City opened up a little additional cap space today with what seems like minor moves, but these opened up like three sorry, somebody said, what the hell are you wearing? Not making fun of you, just curious. It's a hard cap, an apron, and if we need it, I don't know where it is. I'll pull it out here. A second apron.
There it is.
Oh, what do we got now? Per Chris Haynes, Philadelphia 76ers are expected to aggressively pursue Paul George and are a legitimate threat in luring the star away from Los Angeles.
We've been saying from day one that they're probably the best fit for him. Although, since you brought up OKC and we had Isaiah Joe, and
Isaiah Joe
Wiggins, right?
And Aaron Wiggins. They declined their team options on both of those guys. They have full bird rights on them, so they can really kind of do whatever they need. Those two guys will go to minimum cap holds, which are smaller than what they would have made. So potential there. They might have freed up a little bit more money under the cap to maybe make a run. But let's see. Maybe Paul George, that whole Philly stuff, maybe that was more real than what we thought.
Now, the word when those options were declined, or when when the news came out on Isaiah Joe and on Wiggins, it was that they're going to negotiate long-term deals within this next week with OKC to stay, and that means still. Yeah, and I think they probably do, but this does free up that flexibility as well. So I think they should be. I think OKC should be an option for him, but the fact that Philly is the first name coming out after this news, that might be a little bit telling.
Yeah, generally when we hear something like that right away, but let's see, what happens here.
You never know.
Now, I wonder if the Warriors now, if it's going to be that much harder to get Paul George, it's again not impossible, just really probably difficult if it has to be a sign and trade. Do the Warriors just go back to kind of plan one, which was let's just waive Chris Paul? I mean, I'm sure they have other trade options to pursue and other guys they're going to at least look at, but it sounds like they were kind of in on trying to get Paul George, and if they can't get Paul George, they're probably going to look to do something a little bit different.
I think that's probably where we see this go ultimately with the Warriors now. Again, with that Chris Paul situation, I hope, Keith, and maybe you're with me on this. I hope that Paul George does the full like recruiting tour. It feels like it's been a while since we've seen that, like the full-fledged player goes to visit like 3 or 4 different cities, and each city rolls out the red carpet and puts on these performances, these displays, like when Vincent Chase went to go meet with all the different agencies and they all put on the same PowerPoint presentation. It feels like it's been a while since we've had like a big free agency period like that. And Keith just went dark again. Makes me worry about what he's going to look like when he comes back. Oh my!
Salary cap. Because now we're talking about salary cap teams. So I switched to the salary cap.
You've got more?
Yeah. I got props
more
for days.
props.
This shows, I mean, we're high production value now on this show.
What have you been doing all day? Just coming up with props?
Well, I did a 3-hour podcast live show already this morning. I might be a little punchy, but yeah. So now I've got the salary cap on. Plus, the hard cap was starting to hurt my head.
Well,
what the hard cap's supposed to hurt.
That's what the hard cap is designed to do.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. All right, let's go here. I get the hilariousness of the trade with the Lakers and the Jazz earlier, but in all seriousness, what are the trades with the Lakers, Golden State Clippers, and 76ers you can both think will happen? I think.
Well, I mean, if the Sixers go Paul George, that's going to be the bulk of their cap space because that's going to be a max deal, almost assuredly. So they would get in there with a probably somewhere in the close to 50 million range, and then they would go into a spot where they'd have. It's a little hard to project right now because we don't know exactly where they're going to go, but somewhere in the range of like 12-ish million would be what's left for them under the cap. So we'll see where that goes. We got another one coming in.
Yeah, it's Cam Reddish. I'm not going to hit the button. It's as expected. He's opting in.
Yeah, and that'll have a little bit of an impact on the whole LeBron giving up money, which we'll talk that next. We'll finish this question and go to that because that's the other real big story right now today. So the Lakers, I don't know. It's not that the Lakers are by any means out of the trade market. I think the Lakers are probably more focused on let's use the MLE and then let's kind of see where we're at. Not that you have to do things in an order, but I think they're just in a spot where it is let's kind of get into a place where it is let's see what it looks like after we use the MLE. We kind of fill out the roster that way. Then if there is an option for a good trade that makes sense for us, that will keep us under, very likely at that point, the first apron, it'll be in a spot for them where it is, we have to be careful because I'm not going to put it back on, but they'll be hard capped at the first apron if they use the full MLE. So that becomes a little tricky. A couple people are just catching up. Paul George did opt out. He's going to opt out. So opt in and trade off the table. Paul George will be a free agent this summer. Yeah,
that's and now we're going to be in the summer recruiting tour for Paul George, and we'll see how all that goes. LeBron taking a pay cut in order to open up the MLE, or at least that's what's out there. I think it depends on who they get with the MLE. They've got to go to LeBron 100%. And say, hey, we can get this guy, and LeBron's got to say, ooh, yes, I'll take a pay cut for that. And if it's guys that aren't that exciting, then maybe he doesn't take a pay cut. If it's guys that don't really move the needle, and it's not a super deep free agent class, we've talked about the fact that you can now use the mid-level exception, if you have it, to absorb a salary in a trade. You can use it as essentially a trade exception. So perhaps that's an option for them as well. It does open up the ability, assuming they're going to be okay with hard capping themselves at that first apron, it does open up the ability to accept a player via sign and trade and things of that nature. But I do think you're right. I think the most likely path here is the Lakers use that mid-level exception out on the market to try to land somebody in free agency, and then they go from there. Cam Reddish opting in, it's more than the money. I think it's the roster spots. Now you've got guys you have guys just kind of clogging spots. Cam Reddish, Jackson Hayes. You've got Max Lewis, JHS. These guys, Bronny, Dalton Connect, guys Max Christie coming, right? Yeah. All these guys, some of them, to varying degrees, not necessarily guys you'd put in like your top. Yes, these guys are definitely in the rotation type players, and they need more of those type of guys. So I think there has to be some sort of a consolidation trade, something to open up roster spots. There's just not enough flexibility in terms of roster availability right now.
Yeah, so a couple things with all that, because that's all spot on here. I just want to answer Robert's question. Free agency starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, so 3 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, so Sunday the 30th. Today is just options, qualifying offers. There's a handful of guys with contract guarantees. That's what today is. So today is kind of everything's getting lined up for tomorrow at 6 p.m. for everything to kick off with full free agency opening with that. So let's talk through this LeBron stuff, because there's a lot going on with all of this. So when this broke, I sat down and said, all right, let's start to look through, because it sounds good to say LeBron's going to take a pay cut. Well, what does that mean? Because I think we all know LeBron's not taking a pay cut to the minimum. He's not taking a pay cut to $10 million or anything like that. So what I did was I went through and I did some math. So
and I'm grabbing your tweet right now.
Perfect. So I took all the guys who were guaranteed salaries on the Lakers roster, plugged them in, because you have to do this as if those guys are there. Could they turn around and say, hey, Detroit, you want a second to take on Christian Wood? You want a second to take on Jackson Hayes? Absolutely. That's certainly possible. But then you still have to replace those guys with a minimum signing anyway. So just use them as a placeholder. And no, you could go to any little bit to kind of plus up what you can give LeBron. So as you pull this up, they've got $49.9 million under the first apron for 11 players. That's the guaranteed guys with Connect. And when I did this, Cam Reddish hadn't opted in yet. So now we'll talk through it. So if they wanted to fill out the roster at 15, so that's 12.9. That's using the full non-tax MLE. That would hard cap them at the first apron. So they would be hard capped there by that. So now you're operating under, got to stay under that number. 1.1 million for Bronny James on a rookie minimum. You can do that even if he does the second round pick exception. Nothing says you have to give him more. So they can go there. Then 2.1 million for a veteran minimum signing. Again, it doesn't have to be a veteran minimum. They could go with another rookie minimum or something. But now let's replace that with Cam Reddish at 2.5 million. So if you scroll it down a little bit, because that would have left 33.9. We put Reddish in the mix now. LeBron's at about 33.5 million. That's where he would be at. Now it's about a 16.5 million pay cut for LeBron. That math is a little like there's some rounding in there and stuff, but they get you in the range. It just to provide an understanding of what this means. The Lakers made a trade where, I don't know, Rui and D'Lo, and they took back a $20 million player. Well, there's that $16 million back that they could give to LeBron. So this is all very flexible. And this tells me they're likely to do whatever else they're going to do and then probably come back to LeBron with, we've got all this laid out. LeBron, here's what we can offer you. Are you good? But this is what we've got left. It's not going to be, this is what we got left. Here's $5 million. It's going to be, this is what we got left. Something in the 35 million to max range, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a good thing for the Lakers if he's willing to take a pay cut. Maybe it doesn't have to happen. Like you said, it's possible they could move off. They could try to consolidate some players, move off a couple of players to open up some roster spots. If they want to do anything significant with this roster, other than essentially bring back the team they've got from last year, minus Taurean Prince and add Dalton Connect and Bronny James, what they need to do is find some sort of a trade, either remove some players from the roster that way and then add via free agency, veteran minimum kind of guys, or you're trading for specific players, trading some bigger salaries out there, whether it's D'Angelo Russell, Rui, Jared Vanderbilt, whoever else you want to put in the mix, Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, whoever it is. You can trade a few players and try to open up some room that way. But this at least gives you the opportunity to open up a mid-level exception to go out there on the market and try to find somebody. Who that'll be, we'll have to wait and see. It also gives you the ability to accept a player via sign and trade. It also allows you to take back more money than you send out in a trade if you're willing to go ahead and trigger that hard cap at 179, just south of 179 million. So it does create a lot more flexibility for the Lakers. And Keith, I think it comes down to this. This is LeBron is giving the Lakers a bit more flexibility here. What exactly that looks like, we'll have to see. Now it's on the Lakers to do something with it and to make that useful and show LeBron, hey, we are able to now, because you're doing this or are willing to do this, now we can bring you these guys, and this is what the team's going to look like. And they've got to show LeBron that it's worth it to do that.
Yeah, 100%. That latest from Woj is Torrey Craig has picked up his player option to go back to the Bulls. So what this tells me, a guy like Torrey Craig picking up a minimum player option, I know it's 2.8 million, so it's over the minimum, but he was on a 2-year minimum, which means his cap tax hit moves to his actual minimum amount. But with him doing that, that tells me that, again, it's tampering, but whatever. They at least know there's not a real market out there for him.
Yeah. Let's
just roll forward with this. Stay on this 2.8 because I'm probably just signing for a regular minimum somewhere else. So that's kind of where we kind of start to, with some of these, you start looking and saying, all right, that's weird. Guy maybe could have got more. Now you start to understand maybe there wasn't going to be more for some of these guys. So they're opting in for a little bit less money with that. So
yeah, I think the market, we've seen a few players now picking up options, obviously not Paul George, but a lot of guys on the market. You look at Malik Monk, you look at D'Angelo Russell now, some of these other guys you're talking about, Torrey Craig. The market, the free agent marketplace doesn't appear to be too kind to players so far based on the decisions that we've seen being made.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's you have to be right. Like, that's the hard thing. We generally tend to talk a lot more about this stuff from the teams getting it right or wrong, but you have to be right from the player side. Very famously, Dennis Schroeder, right? Like, nah, I think there's more for me. Ended up on the taxpayer mid-level. Like, that's tough, man. You're in a tough spot, with that. So let me pull this up real quick. Whoops. Can LeBron take an equity stake in the Lakers to offset the loss in salary? I believe that is legal now. That's a very complicated answer. We're not going to get all deep into all this stuff, but the answer is not exactly. You can't do it as a way to circumvent the salary cap. That would still be seen as salary cap circumvention. Players can do equity stakes it's not directly in teams. It's more like in a fund that then comes back. The fund invests in teams. So that's the way that kind of works. It's a very complicated thing that's not really worth what we're going to do here diving into. But the answer is you can't just give like LeBron and say, hey, take $5 million and we're going to give you, 50 million equity in the Lakers this year. Like, that's not something that can happen because that would still be salary cap circumvention.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, like with Didier Drogba, who became part owner of Phoenix Rising, which is a lower level soccer club. Like he knew his name would bring something to the club. He gets an ownership piece of the club. The value of the club goes up because he's getting involved and all that. You can't do that kind of stuff in the NBA. LeBron can't say, hey, well, give me a piece of the Lakers and only pay me $1 million per year. And I'm going to increase the value of my investment by playing for this team and that sort of thing. That's
correct.
I like that you mentioned salary cap circumvention because that's, as much as we look at stuff and we say, is this specifically against the rules? Is this the loopholes or some way that you can get around this? In general, if something is seen, even if it's not specifically prohibitive, if it's seen as salary cap circumvention, the league can still put a stop to that.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. There's a, so any kind of real like collective bargaining agreement, there's always, like in the NBAs, there are good for the game clauses. There are at league discretion. There are all kinds of clauses that get put in. And it's kind of like in business, we always use, for the good of the company, where places I've worked in the past in contracts, where it becomes what happens in those situations is everybody kind of gets in and says, well, they could do this. Well, yeah, in theory, but then they would just say no. It's like, I'm not trying to bring up painful memories or anything like that, but that's why the league said no to the Chris Paul trade, because they can veto anything. If They feel like it's not for the good of the game. Now it gets tricky, and they shouldn't do that. That's a power. If you wield it too often, then it's like, what are we doing here with that? Somebody asked, I'll go to it right now. The players still get compensated under the table. It better not openly, because again, that's salary cap circumvention.
That's Joe Smith. You're losing picks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that puts you in a really rough spot. So shouldn't be. Now there's all kinds of things. Players can invest in all sorts of stuff, and that's different stuff than it used to be. That was one of the big wins for players, is some of the things they can invest in going forward with these kind of things. So yeah, it's a that's like, do they? I'm not going to say it doesn't ever happen, because I don't know. I'm not the one writing these checks or taking cash out of the ATM and small unmarked bills and handing them out in a brown paper bag behind the arena. Like, I don't know, but like, I hope not, because if you get caught, you're going to be in big, big trouble for something like that.
Yeah. That's it. All right. Let's get to, I guess, let me just briefly, because it was another big decision. One of the big dominoes that was out there. What was D'Angelo Russell going to do? Was he going to opt in or out? For months, we've been assuming that he would opt out of his contract. Then over the last couple of days, we've heard some rumblings that it was pushing more in the direction that he was going to opt in. Lo and behold, he did indeed opt in. What did you think about that decision from D'Angelo Russell, now on an $18.7 million expiring?
Yeah, I think this is one where a sense of, there may not be a whole lot better for me out there where I want to be. What I have heard from some people now is, there are some things that are going on where it is, we'll sign you, but we only want to go a couple years. Yep. Some of these teams are really like, we're not going to do like, let's say D'Lo to the Magic, for example. That was a very popular rumor. Magic might have been like, hey, we'll do 2 years, 50
30
million, 30, 50, whatever. But we're not going to do 4 years, 100 million. Like, we don't want to go that far out. With this. And I think for some of these guys, they're looking at it and saying, all right, I'm probably better off where I'm at, then play out the year. Let's see what free agency looks like a year from now. Now, the interesting thing with D'Angelo Russell is, this gets a little kind of like, all right, what happens now? Because now he's lost all control. He can just be traded. The Orlando Magic are declining Mo Wagner's $8 million team option per Woj, but both sides have interest in discussing a new deal in free agency. And so let me finish the D'Lo thought. Then I want to go.
Yeah, I'll pull up the Magic's cap sheet, because we need to talk about them.
So for D'Lo, my guess is now back, but he has no control now. Now the Lakers can turn around, trade him whenever they want. He has no trade clause, nothing like that. He can just be moved, and that gets to be, you gave that up, but that was part of the contract all along for him. The Lakers overpaid him a little bit more than they probably should have, because of that control that they could have. And then he got the player option. And part of how he gets the player option with $18 million, almost 19, is Lakers can turn around and trade him. So there we go.
Yep. All right, let's talk about the Orlando Magic here. And the Lakers are rumored to be aggressive on the trade market with D'Lo. Our pal Jake Fisher had that a couple of weeks ago, that if Orlando offered D'Lo a salary, it would be starting at less than the $18.7 million. That was why I went to 2 years, like 30 or something like that. Sure. All right, so here's the Magic. Now, Mo Wagner gets his option declined. We already saw they declined Joe Ingles' option. So where does that leave Orlando? Now you've got Paul George sitting out there in free agency. How much spending power do the Magic have now with both of those deals off their books for the time being?
Yeah, so this is, I've had these locked kind of in on my projections for a while now, and I'll explain my thinking behind both as we get into it. But I've got the Magic at about 49.5 million. Going into this offseason, because I don't think, for a long time I thought they might waive Jonathan Isaac, but he played well enough that I think they'll keep him. Caleb Houston, he's probably right on the roster bubble. They could maybe waive him, but at this point, 49.5 million should be enough to do whatever they want to do there. With Joe Ingles, when he signed for 11 million, and I bet if you refresh this within the next 5 minutes, Mo Wagner will disappear and move down to the cap hold section too. Mm-hmm. I know our guy Scott's feverishly working through these right now over at Spot Track, so I can sit here and play dress up. So it is for the Magic. Let's go with Joe Ingles first. they paid him $11 million last year. And a lot of people are like, whoa, like what, like how does he get $11 million with this? But how he gets that $11 million is the Magic had to spend on somebody last year. So we like Joe Ingles. We did this. Now, if Joe Ingles gets his option decline, which he did, now we can bring him back for a minimum, and you kind of add it together. And Joe Ingles, 2 years, $13 million. That seems pretty fair. That seems like a pretty fair deal. So that's how you got to kind of start to think through this stuff here. Now, with Mo Wagner, all right, they declined the $8 million team option. He's going to go into free agency. But you know what's also $8 million next year? The room exception. So my guess is what happens for Mo Wagner is the Magic can now use that $8 million in cap space, then turn around and say, Mo, you want to come back for the $8 million room exception? Actually, a little bit more. He's going to make like $6,000 more. So good for him. Drinks on Mo. But here, like Flaming Mo's, maybe.
Flaming Mo's. That's a great reference.
Oh man, the Simpsons are the best. Old Simpsons. But yeah, so that's just good salary cap management. Now you can keep Mo Wagner in the fold, probably keep Joe Ingles, and probably for Ingles comes down to roster spots. That'll be a consideration a little bit for the Magic. But you can start to build this out and go use your $49.5 million to pursue whoever you want. Paul George, trades, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's been rumored there. Basically, anybody who can play has been kind of rumored to the Magic or the Sixers because they're the two best teams with the most cap space. So that's kind of where we're looking right now for Philly. They can do an awful lot of stuff now that they couldn't have done before.
Yeah, this is probably prearranged with Mo Wagner where he's just going to kick back for the next week or so. The Magic are going to do their thing. And then he's going to get right back the same amount of money that he would have lost. And as you said, maybe an extra $6,000 for his troubles. And that's a good spot to be in. Now, what does that mean for the Magic's spending power? Where does that put them?
About $49.5 million.
49.5. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I was just checking too. It looks.
Yep.
Okay. So that, I mean, there you go. There's Paul George potentially. What about Klay Thompson?
Hold on 1 second. Per Woj, the Memphis Grizzlies are declining Luke Kennard's $14.8 million option, but both sides are eager to pursue a restructured deal. So Luke Kennard will go into Kennard was a team option, not a player option. I don't know what I said, but the Grizzlies had the option. They declined it. So makes sense. Knock his number down quite a bit because he shouldn't be making $15 million. They can't really afford to pay him that. So let's go with that. All right. So Klay Thompson, is that where you wanted to go?
Well, yeah, I also wanted to note Caleb Martin declined his option as well.
Yeah, there's a bunch that are coming in. Some other people got him. Caleb Martin declined his. Thomas Bryant declined his. The Celtics declined Neemias Queta, team option for him. So these are all going to zip in here now. With this, the Knicks declined Daquan Jeffries team option. Okay. So he will not be added to the trade for Mikal Bridges with that. So that's a little bit of an interesting one. The Thunder did give a qualifying offer to Aaron Wiggins. So he will be a restricted free agent. That's per Mike Scotto of Hoopsite. So a lot of this stuff is flowing in. We'll get caught up. If we don't get caught up here, we'll have it all updated on Spot Check. Go ahead and hit a refresh for me because I bet Wagner's off there.
I will indeed.
Unless
as Studio Stu makes his appearance here.
I must be doing it in a slightly different order. So, okay, he's working through them.
Let's talk about this though. Klay, could Klay Thompson land with the Magic? Does that make sense as a landing spot for him now?
I mean, we're hearing a lot of places for Klay. I think it's going to come down to for Klay is, does he want every penny he can get, which could mean Orlando, maybe Philly, or does he want to take a mid-level exception deal? That could be the Lakers. That could be, I kind of don't think the Lakers make sense with Connect now in the fold. I think not that Klay wouldn't be a better guy right now, but I don't think you want to block your young draft pick that much. And I think you'd rather do other options for that. But Klay's kind of got it all in front of him. And, of course, a return to the Warriors can't be counted out either.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. Where do we want to go next here?
A couple people have asked in the chat. I saw it earlier today. The Pistons were going to waive Troy Brown to free up money. So that makes sense. That was always going to probably be a thing for Detroit. I had that factored into my projections for them. So I can just do you want me to just do a quick cap space projection
let's
rundown? Okay, so here's what I've got right now. 6 teams with cap space. There's a potential for another one. I'll talk about them at the end. Philly leading the way at 61.3 million projected, followed by Detroit at 51.1. Detroit was above Philly, but they took on Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract as well as Wendell Moore Jr., so they dropped down. Orlando at 49.5, Utah at 38.1. Oklahoma City is going to be right around the 32 million range after we take out Wiggins and Joe, but bank some of that for them to re-sign those guys eventually at some point. With that, maybe that could be the way they go, where they could just use their bird rights. Then San Antonio at the bottom of this with 26.4. San Antonio could still choose to keep Devontae Graham. They pushed back his guarantee date, and they could still choose to keep him and have him on the roster beyond his guarantee date and then operate as an over-the-cap team. So we'll see what that looks like. The team that I wanted to talk about briefly is the Charlotte Hornets, because the Hornets are in kind of a weird position where they've done some stuff that makes it look towards like they might go the cap space route, but it's going to be somewhere in probably the 16 to 17, maybe as much as 20 million range. They waived Seth Curry. They declined the option on JT Thor. We haven't seen it yet, but I am assuming we're going to see Davis Bertans opt in, but then get waived eventually, because he will opt in, but then his contract is only guaranteed for just over 5 million. So we'll see what that looks like for the Hornets. As of right now, I still have them over the cap, but they could very easily be a cap space team, but it's probably going to be 20 million or less for them in cap space. And somebody in the thing is saying I'll take Stein's word over Keith with Clay. I didn't mention every team. The Mavs are definitely in the mix.
Yeah, chill,
Stein
dude.
Reported that. So yeah, I'm not.
Chill.
It wasn't
freaking out. You didn't mention the Mavs for Clay. It's my team. Send him
for them either. And that's another thing that's been reported.
All right, let's go to some of our super chat questions. Let's go. This one, would it be the worst if the Lakers keep D'Lo, trade some other guys? No, I mean, you could definitely keep D'Angelo Russell. Sure. I mean, you can keep him on. I think he's a pretty good value on that contract based on the way he performed last season anyway. Well, during the regular season, we should say. But they could certainly keep him. They could hang on to him all the way to the trade deadline. He's an expiring contract. They could keep him all the way to next summer, and then they would still have his bird rights, and we'll see what happens from there. But yeah, that's not out of the question. I do think that he will be shopped quite a bit to see what they can find out there on the market, but wouldn't surprise me either if he winds up just sticking around.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Robert, I already answered the question on Troy Brown. Stop spamming the chat, please. We answered that question.
Let's see. Can a Paul George sign and trade to the Lakers be possible? That would put us in the second cap apron. I mean, you could do it, but there would be a first apron hard cap to sign and trade a player. But the Lakers can do that if LeBron takes a big enough pay cut. The problem is, realistically, are the Clippers making a trade with the Lakers?
Yeah,
well, yes, if they're fleecing the Lakers in the trade. Otherwise, no. Yeah. Otherwise, no. If it's the Ivica Zubac trade, then they will definitely do it. Otherwise, they would literally rather send him anywhere else. I would look, I don't know this specifically, but I would assume they would even take a lesser offer from another team rather than send him to the Lakers. So I would not assume that's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. And that's one even too, where if he's like, that's where I want to go, I don't think the Clippers would facilitate helping him in that unless they clearly get back a monster.
They would say, cool, you have to go for a mid-level exception then, or, you're going to take
exactly. Yeah.
We're not going to help
we need some incredible thing back. So,
best landing spots for Lopez, Vucevic, Carter Jr. OKC could be in the mix. It is interesting because there's a number of teams out there that are looking for bigs. Now, I would assume Memphis checked the box by drafting Zach Edey. Maybe they could still bring in a rotation big just to make, because he's a rookie. Do you want to count on rookies? But But there are teams out there. There is some demand for centers on the market. So what do you see from those three specifically?
I think Lopez stays in Milwaukee. I don't think they want to move him. I think they would, but I don't think they want to. What do we got here? LeBron James is officially opted. So this is from Dave McMenamin.
Opted out.
He officially opted out. He will work on his next deal if it means adding an impact player. So that sounds like it's the same thing that Chris Haynes reported earlier today. Is there's open and now let's hand up. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before. I said I didn't think he would do that.
Yeah.
And if he's willing to do that, good for LeBron, right? This is, and I had somebody say to me today saying, hey, I bet the union won't like that very much. I think the union realizes LeBron is 40 and would like to win one more time. So let's just kind of that one's where they're not going to look the other way. If Paul George opted out and went and signed for the minimum with Philly, that would probably be a little bit more of a problem. I think the union would be like, what are you doing? Like, why are we doing this? So yeah, let's see.
And this is an opportunity now for the Lakers, but this is also pressure on the Lakers. Like they said at the trade deadline, hey, we didn't make a move now because we're going to have picks this summer. Then it was, Rob Pelinka saying, then this darn new CBA is creating all these problems. Now LeBron's like, hey, I'm doing everything I can. I'm even sacrificing, what is it, 16 million, maybe more,
potentially,
to make this happen. What are you going to do? Here's your opportunity, right? So now we'll see what's happening. There's people who are saying in the chat saying they probably already know what it is that they're going to do.
I mean, maybe.
That's possible. Sure. That's possible. Yeah. But we'll see. Now it's on the Lakers to take advantage.
Yeah. They may already know player X wants this. They may also already know, hey, we've got this trade lined up, and we're just waiting to get into a spot where we're gonna move these guys on tomorrow at 6 when it's legal. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Here's super breaking news right now. At 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to get tweets from Woj and Shams before the clock even ticks to 6:01 about deals and trades and other stuff. It didn't happen in less than 1 minute. Like, teams know. Teams have an idea.
Teams know. And players know.
Yeah, players know. Like, we're not, like, all, like, going to get bent out of shape over a lot of this stuff. It's just not worth it. It's just, like, it's how the business works. It couldn't work any other way. To be honest, you have to have conversations that like this. Let's finish the rest of Julian's question because we got
okay.
Kind enough to do a super chat. Wendell Carter Jr. I'm not gonna say Orlando won't trade him because if it was in the right trade, I think they would try to do something, but I don't think they're gonna move him. They really like him in Orlando. They like his fit in that front court with Banchero, with Wagner, now with Tristan Da Silva, who they drafted. They're pretty happy with that group. So I don't think they're gonna move him. Vucevic, I don't know. The Bulls are now like a wild card team.
Yeah, who knows what they're doing? I have
no idea what to expect out of them anymore. Like I thought they might be like, re-sign DeMar DeRozan and let's keep Zach LaVine. Let's run back good time party times here in Chicago and let's chase that 10 seed in the play-in.
Chase the 10, yep.
Here we are. Like now we're hearing DeRozan might be more available than we thought. Like there's a lot of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to talk Vooch. That'll be a little bit of a harder contract to get off of. He fell off a cliff last year, did not have a very good season. So that's the thing that's really tough on the Bulls right now with moving him.
So I do think that the Bulls fans should have maybe a little bit more optimism, and then we'll see what they do. But it seems like maybe there's an opening for them to actually rebuild this thing and kind of tear it down. And if they do, that'd be great. I think the interesting thing with Chicago is what happens with Zach LaVine. It still seems like they're having a hard time finding a taker there. Maybe Sacramento is an option. That's a team that we've heard connected to him, but that move, that's the next, I think, big domino. And if you can find a taker for Zach LaVine, that will push the Bulls that much further towards going into a rebuild, which I know is what Bulls fans want. They're tired of this. Tear it down, give them some hope for the future. Yeah,
I can't tell you how many Bulls fans, even today we had a couple when we Bryce and I did the draft recap show, which if you've got a long drive ahead of you, or you're just hanging out, or like I've been saying, if you need to hide from the family during the 4th of July festivities this next week, we did a 3-hour draft recap show. We covered all 30 teams, all 58 draft picks, and probably got into somewhere in the range of 12 to 20 undrafted players who are going to be two-way guys who are on camp deals and stuff like that. We had a lot of fun today. Very long show for you. All the detail you could ever want. Bryce absolutely knocked a grand slam out of the park with his analysis on this draft stuff with this. So yeah, I think, he did a great job. But we had a couple Bulls fans in there like, full rebuild. We got Josh Giddey now. We got Modest Buzelis. Let's just finish. Let DeRozan go somewhere. Move Vooch. Move Levine. Tear this thing down and go. So
yes. Dave McMenamin now on Twitter clarifying that, or X, that if the Lakers can't find an impact player for the full MLE that would be created by LeBron taking a pay cut, then he will seek the max. And there's only so much patience on LeBron's part because Team USA camp begins a week from today in Las Vegas, and he wants a deal done before then.
Please, that would be lovely, because LeBron's never been the first one to go off the board in free agency. It's usually we're sitting around waiting until the second week of July, and that holds everybody else up. It's not going to hold everybody else up now because everyone knows he's going back to the Lakers. It's just a question how much. I should have said this when we were really deep into the LeBron stuff before. If LeBron does a deal where it's like 33 million, whatever it was, 34 million, I bet it's 1 year with an option. Then he'll opt out and go back to the max probably next year, or maybe he opts out.
That's interesting.
Let's do it again. I don't think it's going to be the full 3-year deal at the lower number, because he's going to want to continue to keep that pressure, right? Of, hey, he's basically going year to year now anyway. So let's kind of keep that pressure. I don't think it'll be a long-term deal, which I think the Lakers are fine with as well. Let's just kind of keep this thing.
Whatever deal he tells them he wants, that's what they're going to give him.
Yep.
Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
We're going to do a couple more here because we're already at the hour mark. Is Portland committed to both Scoot and Anthony? If not, can Anthony be peeled from them along with maybe Grant? I think Portland is still, even after moving Brogdon, they're still likely to move a player or two that are in that. We looked at it on a show the other day, their top 6 salaries or whatever. They're going to probably still move on from some of those guys, whether it's Jeremy Grant, whether it's Anthony Simons, or a number of other players. Could be Robert Williams, could be, I don't think it's going to be Ayton, but I don't think Portland is done making moves.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't really have anything to add. It's definitely Scoot they're committed to. He's only going into year 2. He's not going anywhere. But yeah, anybody else of that veteran group of their top 6 salaries, wouldn't be surprised if they move.
Yeah. All right. Do we want... why are Warriors fans mad at Paul George declining his player option? Because then that shut down a potential trade.
The only reasonable path for them was an opt-in and trade, and that isn't there. One last thing, we didn't talk about it yet. Woj just kind of casually threw out there, Lauri Markkanen might be available from
I saw
Utah.
that. Yep.
Not that they're looking to move him, but they may be in a spot where it becomes, all right, let's see, what it looks like with that. Let's see, where we go with this. So yeah, I
think Danny Ainge saw the Mikal Bridges trade and said, "I'll take one of those, please."
Yes,
and so that's why this is getting out there.
Yep. Yeah. 100% agree. Here's the thing too, on that contract right now, like 18 million, basically anyone can trade for him if they can put together a good enough deal. So 100% they'll be there with that. So yeah, it's going to be there. A couple of people are still asking Trevor, what am I wearing? Well, right now I have my salary cap on, but if we need to, I've got the apron, I've got the second apron, and then over here I got the hard cap. So that's what was going on at the beginning of the show.
Visual tools for the learning environment here. That's what we're seeing.
Trying to help, man. Just trying to help.
All right, everybody. I think we're going to wrap things up there since we're over the hour mark now, and I think a lot of the option decisions have now come in. We do appreciate you joining. There's more stuff coming. I think I am going to do a late lunchtime with the Lakers in just a few moments over on the Lakers Nation channel if you want to join me for that. And this is a fun time of year with big day coming tomorrow. Free agency officially starts 6:00 Eastern time. So we're just about 24 hours away from things getting going. It's going to be fun. We're going to be getting tons of news, tons of stuff to break down. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications as well. Keith, incredible intro to today's show. I don't know how we're ever going to top that. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I don't have anything better planned tomorrow. Tomorrow, too, just so everybody knows, we will not be live at the start of free agency on Front Office Show. We will go live later in the evening. We don't like to do that as a reaction. Part of it is I am too busy. And it just would be, if you thought I was distracted at points in this show, that would be an extremely distracted show. What we generally do is we wait, we go a little bit later into the night, let things calm down a little bit when it looks like, all right, we're kind of done. Not that we might not get another piece of news or two. Then we'll do a reaction to all the stuff that happened throughout the course of the day. Tomorrow, with the start of free agency, we'll have a blast with that. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We do it every year. So great reason to subscribe, turn on your notifications, so then you'll know that we'll go live, because it's probably gonna be with pretty short notice. It's probably gonna be the two of us texting each other like, we haven't had anything in like a half hour. You want to get started, and then we'll get rolling with that. So we'll have a lot of fun with that tomorrow. I'll be a little more serious tomorrow, but we'll also probably be pretty punchy and tired. So you're gonna get some absolute oddball behavior. But I want to have a little bit of fun today because I knew we were going to be talking aprons and hard caps and all that stuff. So that's what it's basketball, right? It's not so serious. Let's have fun.
It's going to be a good time. That's for sure. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Till next time, stay safe and see ya.